we've talked about language, so we kind of know what words to use, what words not to use, and we have an idea about that. However, you can use the right words. If you don't present it in the right way, it can still be lost, right? It can still be ineffective as a speaker. So we're going to look today about what to do when you actually stand in front of an audience. What do I do vocally? What do I do beyond that with just my hands and legs, right? What do I do here? So we're going to look at some elements, starting with the idea of conversational, of being conversational in our quality, in our presentation. And we've talked before about not separating ourselves from our audience, right? One way you can do that is to talk down to your audience. That's very separating. I am here and you are there, and don't you wish you could be here as smart as I want to be? So we don't want to be that way. So we want to be conversational with our audience. Now, it just so happens to be a one-sided conversation. You are the speaker, but you are having a conversation with your audience. It's just like you would with your friends. It's okay to move a little bit. You make eye contact. You seem sincere with your friends, right? Okay, all these things. It's still very important, even though your audience moves from one person to a crowd of 2,500 or more people. You still have to have this conversational quality, as though I'm not presenting to you, I am speaking to you, having a conversation. The conversational quality. And this is in your textbook also. We're going to look at nonverbal communication today as well, some elements of nonverbal communication. We've talked about this already, but nonverbal being, really there are two areas of nonverbal communication. First of all, verbal communication are the words. It's a little confusing because nonverbal has a couple of areas. Nonverbal can be our body movements, right? That's nonverbal communication. And some people say, 60 to 90%, right, of your communication is nonverbal communication. But beyond that, there's something called paralanguage, which is part of nonverbal communication. It's not the word, but it's what surrounds the word. The example I gave the other day, if you saw me in the hallway and you said, "How are you today?" and I said, "I'm fine." Well, verbal is fine. My nonverbal, though, probably a couple things. My nonverbal behavior is that I'm stomping off, but the paralanguage, that what surrounds that word, is nonverbal, and that was the way I said it, right? I seemed angry in the way I said it. I seemed upset. That's paralanguage. There are 4 methods of speech delivery. A manuscript delivery is simply when you read what you have written word for word to an audience. Second one is memorization. You memorize some of the words based on the last word or trigger words. If you forget one simple word, you can just throw the whole thing off. It can be a very simple word. If you don't hear yourself saying, impromptu, we've done those. What's an impromptu? Yeah, you're exactly right. Not really planned, kind of on the spot, getting up and speaking. The last one is extemporaneous. It's a long. You make good notes, strong notes, and you practice thoroughly. I mean, you practice over and over and over again. But when you present, it is presented as though it is spontaneous. So what I mean by that is you have notes, you have an outline. You don't have word for word written down what you're going to say. But you've gone over it so many times that all you have to do is look down at those notes and see these key words to make you remember something. So I look at the key word, I look back up, and I talk to my audience about it. And when it comes to the next point, I don't have to worry about what was my next point, because it's right here in my notes. And I look back up. So it seems more spontaneous. There's a lot more eye contact. I can interact with my audience a lot more in this extemporaneous type speaking. So the 4 methods. Let's look at how to use our voice in speech delivery. The volume is simply, again, how loud or how quiet you speak, correct? Is it good to change that? Or should you just stay one level? Yeah, monotone, it's boring, right? Okay, so we want to change this. Get louder at times, get quiet at times. When might we get loud? What point in the story? Good. Big, exciting, climactic moment, right? That car accident we were talking about. That's when you get loud, right? You're not quite as loud until you get to that point, and then it's loud. Should you ever get really quiet? Being quiet can be so effective. If I'm blah, 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 talking to you, blah, 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 then I get real quiet. I almost kind of lean in to my audience. tend to want to, you kind of think, kind of build your curiosity, doesn't it? You want to know. If you're across the room, you might think, is he telling a secret? Ooh. I like secrets, right? So you want to know this, so you really kind of, you listen. We think, well, being loud is the only way to get your audience's attention. No, if you feel like you're losing your audience's attention a little bit, if you get really quiet, that can really pull them in, especially in telling a story. Okay, how about the pitch? What is pitch? Highs and the lows, right? Good. You may not believe this is true, but I don't know all the biology behind this, but naturally, in our bodies, when we get excited about something, our voice goes up. The muscles in your body get tense when you get excited. You get worked up about something, your muscles get tense. And that includes the muscles in your neck. And when those get tense today, however, if you've ever taken a group of 18-year-old girls, 17, 18-year-old girls, and you have, let's say they see each other for the first time on a Tuesday, between then and the last time they've seen each other, one of them has started to hang out with a boy. And so they say, well, I've seen you so-and-so. So this little circle starts with a kind of a murmur, right? And before you know it, first of all, it gets louder, but also the pitch goes where? Yeah, higher, doesn't it? Isn't that interesting? Until somebody, what? Squeals? Can you do it? You might even get a squeal out of this group, right? There's so much excitement, and you think you all can't even breathe, right? What about rate? What is rate? It's how fast or slow, and that needs to change as well. Think about the car accident story. If you start out that story just a regular pace, right? But as you go into that intersection and the accident's about to happen, do you slow the story down? No. The story gets fast, right? We pull it in the intersection. The next thing I know, you get excited. The pitch, hear my pitch, it goes up. I get faster. I might even get louder. All this stuff goes hand in hand to build excitement in your audience, right? Creating for them a sense of what you experienced in this accident. The next one is very powerful. We talked a little bit ago about, we always think we need to fill a speech with words, non-stop words. That's not always the case. You can have a very effective presentation if you slow down and use pauses. Pauses are very powerful. I'm yammering on here in class, which I do, about stuff, and just to stop. I don't have to stop very long until you feel that kind of heaviness in the air. And if you're not, and all of you were paying attention when I did that, but if you were not paying attention, let's say you were doodling on something, what would you do? You kind of looked at me, right? Yeah. Yeah, what happened? Did he die? We're excited there for a second, right? What happened? So, but we're interested in what's going on. It's a great way to gain your audience's attention, just to pause. Now, the bad thing, the way we typically mess this up is that we fill this pause because we're standing in front of an audience, and any kind of pause we feel like is really awkward. And we don't want to have any kind of pause, right? Because we feel like a 1 second pause is about 15 seconds or 15 minutes long. So we want to try to avoid that. So anytime we come to a point where there is a pause, where we're trying to think of what to say next, or where there should just be a dramatic pause, what do we tend to do? You know, what are called fillers, vocalized pauses, whatever you might call them. What are these? You have some examples? Is one of those, yeah. What else? What else do people say over and over? Is another one. Over and over in their sentences. Yeah. Okay. Like. There are others. You know. Some people you know say you know all the time. You know what I mean? And. Just say and. Okay. The interesting thing here is that people who do this, which a lot of us do, typically do not know they are doing this. You may have sat in a class before where a teacher does something like this over and over. And after a while it becomes what? It becomes a distraction, doesn't it? To where you're not listening to whatever they're saying about a subject, but instead you're taking notes, right? Every time they say you might find that in a 15-minute, hour, 20-minute class, they say